I know you're accustomed to cleaning up someone else's mess. You put your own story on hold to tend to someone else's side quest. Guess who's gonna hold down the fort, prop open the doors, and mop up the floor when you've gotta rest? When you've gotta rest. You're looking like a hero, but you're living in fear though. Scared of what they'll do if you speak up and say no. So darling, put yourself first. I see beneath the surface, and you never rest until you think you deserve it. Don't matter if you've earned it. Darling, put yourself first.
Hello, everyone. I am Brandiss Pearson, and I'm a super proud mom of two extraordinary young men. Shaun is my oldest son. He's the 21-year-old there who towers over me at 6'5". And Brandon is my spunky, extraordinary, with 3 X's, 19-year-old who happens to have been born with Down syndrome. As a caregiver, these two souls with 2 very different sets of needs really require me to stretch beyond my comfort zone. I've had some high highs and some low lows. And the song that I played just a bit ago really resonates with me because I've often felt, and if I'm honest, still sometimes feel like I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. And self-care, well, that always feels like something that I had to earn, or even more than that, it felt mystical, something reserved for the gods. More than likely, it was because I was in this perpetual state of survival. Calmness, relaxation, and ease come with safety, security, and assuredness, none of which I was privy to for well over a decade. My goal for this presentation is to really help fellow caregivers feel empowered to prioritize self-care and seek support when possible. For those of us who live in survival mode, I hope you heal the parts of you that may feel like you don't deserve rest. Those feelings of busyness and constantly doing and giving and being everything for everyone can be a trauma response and leaves none of us for ourselves. My goal is to share strategies for self-care and help you realize that you have earned rest, peace, and serenity just by being you. If you never do another thing, you are worthy of respite and refuge. So with that said, I want to thank Kate Hauk and the whole team at David's Refuge for inviting me to share some words of wisdom and comfort with all of you. I hope something I share resonates and leaves a lasting impression. But first, let me introduce you to my extra loving, extra bossy, extraordinary son, Brandon. And here he is. I've worked my behind off as his mom, advocating for him to have the best lived experiences possible. He's enjoyed inclusive team sports, work experiences at places like the Rescue Mission and their soup kitchen. He's had a modeling contract. He's been recognized by the city of Syracuse and beyond for his work related to fostering inclusion in areas that weren't always welcoming and accessible for individuals who navigate the world in the way he does. He's truly a leader and a friend to his peers. I couldn't be more proud. But let's be honest, the job of making sure he lives his best life and advocating for inclusion is hard work. Inclusion isn't just the work of those of us who have been historically marginalized or caregivers. It's the work of everyone with a beating heart. And we know what that work requires. But in case someone is on this presentation who isn't really sure, that work requires calling out exclusionary practices, deconstructing barriers to inclusion, participating in courageous and crucial conversations, being a voice for the voiceless, and running the race for those who can't even walk. And sometimes it requires being a sanctuary from the vulnerable. These are things that caregivers do every day because we have to. But I would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to allies who help advocate for access, build community, and establish authentic connections for everyone. I thank you. As a caregiver of individuals with varying levels of ability and engagement, we ourselves are a part of our own culture. We live on the periphery sometimes. Now, we can access the world in ways that those we care for or may not be able to, yet we walk alongside our babies and our buddies and we support them, sometimes navigating life through their level of access. I was recently asked by someone, what if the person can't give you back everything you give them? Can you still truly love them, care for them, and prioritize them? My answer is emphatically yes. But that requires me to find ways to replenish my personal store of energy and make sure that I have the capacity to do what I believe I was put on this earth to do. And that is to be the best mother and advocate that I can be for my sons. But that's where self-care comes into play. Let me say this. I do not intend to trivialize or make assumptions about how each of us as caregivers can access self-care. But I will encourage everyone to define self-care for themselves. So I present the ABCs of self-care as a caregiver. A is for autonomy. B is for balance. C is for capacity. So what does that look like? Autonomy. You get to decide. Autonomy is defined as the ability of a person to make his or her own decisions. Self-governance. You get to define what self-care means for you. Other people make self-care seem so lofty and unattainable. But what if I told you that washing dishes or folding laundry while you watch your favorite TV show could be self-care? Now let's address the elephant in the room. Work-life balance is a joke, especially if you're working from home due to COVID. But finding a way to prioritize yourself is crucial. We can't be all work and no play. And that leads me to C, capacity. Do you have the capacity to hold space for yourself, particularly after you've spent a full day being a caregiver? Is there any of you left over for yourself? Do you tell yourself that you'll wait to do the things that set your soul on fire or make you feel the most like yourself until after everyone else's needs are met completely and fully? Or can you tell yourself that you get to prioritize yourself because you have done the best you can and let that be enough? Doing your best does not always mean you will complete a task. Only you can be the judge of the amount of effort that you've given to a thing. Let's try not to assess our capacity based on someone else's metrics. There's one more C. Connection. We need each other. We need support systems like David's Refuge. We need people to show up for us just the way we show up for others. We deserve the same grace that we extend to everyone else. It's okay to ask for support. It isn't a sign of weakness. Have you considered how much strength and courage it actually requires to look inward and say, I don't have all the answers or all of the resources? but let me connect with those who do so that I can continue to show up as my full self. We deserve refuge, but sometimes we have to ask for it. Refuge and self-care aren't reserved for others. They are for every one of us with a beating heart. So I'm going to share some tips for self-care. First, define for yourself what self-care is and what it is not. The common denominator of self-care practices is that you get some enjoyment out of the activity. Ultimately, your self-care routine should make you a better version of yourself. Maintain your friendships. We often live in isolation so that we don't become a burden to our friends and family. But sometimes we block our own blessings by sabotaging genuine relationships and people who want to support us. Get regular exercise. They say exercise is the most potent and underutilized antidepressant, and it's free. Incorporating exercise into your self-care routine is one of the most effective and lasting ways of improving your mental health. Keep a balanced diet. Food is the most widely abused anti-anxiety drug. A balanced diet can improve your mood, and like the saying goes, eat the rainbow. Ask for help and accept it when it's offered. We don't have to do it all. Delegation is a leadership trait. Think of yourself as your own best friend. Would you say the things that you say to yourself in your head? Would you say those things out loud to your best friend? Probably not. Positive self-talk only. And finally, plan something to look forward to. Always try to have something to look forward to, like reading a book, taking a walk, binge watching Netflix, phoning a friend, vacation, spa day, date night, something that is just for you. Not that's tied to your title or your role or your relationship to someone else. Something that makes you feel the most like you. We're all worthy of prioritizing self-care. Self-care is not selfish. I consider it self-preservation. And self-preservation for me means assessing my health, both physical and mental, assessing my ability, and making that the minimum that I will accept from myself and others. So what I have today is my foundation that I will build on through self-care practices. And so I end my presentation with this song, because we all deserve respite, a safe space, a sanctuary, a refuge.
Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I can carry on, carry on. Carry on. This one knocked me to the ground. This one dropped me to my knees. I should have seen it coming, but it surprised me. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I can carry on, carry on, carry on. In a state of true believers, on streets called us and them, it's
it's gonna take some time till the world feels safe again. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I can carry on, carry on, carry on.
Thank you so much for spending a little time with me. I hope that something I said has resonated with you. From caregiver to caregiver, I see you, I honor you, and I share in your struggle, but I also share in your strength. So self-care is not selfish, it's self-preservation. Have a great night. And you may have seen a toe move in the background. That was a cameo from Brandon. Have a great day, everybody.